Welcome to Timber&Terra. I'm Glenn, and we are basically here picking up where we left off in the previous video. Intersection of some roads here. Last video I did review the map of where we are and the management plan and some silviculture guidance as to what we're doing and why. So if you want to look at that, look at the previous video, please. Because today is really just going to be thinning. And I really have my eyes on those 4, 5, 6, however many there are, poplar, quaking aspen, Populus tremuloides. But for now, I'm working my way into there. I also have to figure out where to fell them because they're large. They will do damage wherever they fall. So I need to either clear a spot or just have a place that they can fall where the damage that they do is really not going to be that critical. So I'm actually over here looking at a couple firs. So we looked at this last time. I cleaned up these two, but I have that cedar tree there with the fork that I got to trim off. I have a nice one here that does not have a fork. It is nice and straight. Small one next to it that'll be taken down. That's the clumping that you like to avoid. So I'm thinking of either that fir, which actually kind of leans to the right, or this one. Looking at the other side of that same cedar, when I do take down these poplar, that'll also provide a bit more light here. But since this direction is north, then these are not going to provide as much light as taking one to the south of it would, such as that one. So, looking at these two, that fir and that one, I've decided on this one, really for one primary reason, is this one I can fell it relatively easily in a direction that's not going to cause any harm. This one is a bit more dicey. So, let's take this one down. So from that tree you got two saw logs. The top one here is basically just 5 inches. This one might be 7 or 8. The one to the right's not quite as straight. The one on the left looks nice and straight. So that opened up a fair amount. Plenty of light now for those 2, 3 cedars, 4 cedars. And we have one 12-foot pole to add to our little pile. Alright, so as I'm eyeing these poplar, I think the next thing I'm going to do is sort of go in there, clean up some of this dead stuff, really just for visibility. I do like to leave some dead trees, you know, for habitat, you know, if I don't need to take them down. So I'll minimize what I take down for dead trees, but I need to find out what direction to fell these will be the safest and the least likely to do damage. So those dead trees, it's not like they don't provide habitat anymore. It's just more microbial habitat than habitat for the insects and animals we've all grown to love and admire. Before I go further, before I take this one down, I wanted to point out, this is one of those trees that you might say, oh wow, this is a nice young tree, give it light, it'll grow up to be huge. But you can estimate the age of conifers, at least spruce and fir, cedar I don't think so much, by the whorls. So we can count backwards how old this tree is. So this is last year's growth, and it did have a bit more growth here than down here. So these major whorls, and down here, they don't look like much, but you can see it probably grew 3/4 of an inch to maybe 1.5 inches a year. So let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, goes in the, I'd say probably 20, well, in the range of 20 to 25 years old, and the thing is not even 3 feet tall. So this is not going to be much of a tree. Even these here, probably not quite that old, but they are not the healthiest or the most promising. My hope would be in a sapling like this, or one like this, that is clearly much younger. And even now there's more light, but when I take down those poplar, there's going to be a lot of light. And all these other saplings, like that little one there, those, you can see them all. In fact, the one straight ahead there, the largest one furthest back, is a red spruce. Hopefully you can tell the difference from here. The needles are smaller, they're more numerous. It just looks tighter packed than the fir that surrounds it. So this is my prized tree. I mean, this is what I'm looking for, this and the cedar. We go down further that way, there will be some white pine, which is a bit odd for white pine and white cedar to share the same growing area. Because as we've discussed, cedar requires real wet area, but eastern white pine normally prefers the sandy soil, at least I thought. And you can see a lot more of these saplings that show more promise than those 25-year-old 3-footers. Well, I will do a little more cutting. I'm not going to take all these dead ones down. I am going to take that leaning dead tree that's leaning right into that poplar down. You can see a nice cedar there that may spring to life a bit better, although it has a fair amount of light now. So the next order of business for me is to poke my head around and figure out where I'm going to drop these. Because actually it's quite a grove of these poplar, now that I'm over here looking. I think one that I pointed out a couple of videos ago, larger ones are over there. Yeah, there's quite a few of them. So this is going to be quite the open area for stuff to grow. And I'm guessing the first saplings that we saw will probably take off. They're very prolific. They regenerate very easily, and so easily that I'll probably have to come in and thin in probably 10 or 15 years, because otherwise it'll just grow a bunch of small spindly fir and none will really grow much in diameter if I do that. But along with that sunshine, hopefully it'll encourage or germinate some cedar and some of that red spruce as well. So we'll come back probably another day. I got a late start today. The sun is starting to set with a plan and start dropping some of these trees, most of which will be firewood, some of which, like that one there, I will save for lumber, 1-inch lumber for myself, nice and straight, you know, probably 10, 12 inches in diameter, breast height. It's just where to drop them. So we've got a dusting of snow since where I videoed last. I did a fair amount of work last time after I was done and before. So all this material here that you see that doesn't have a coating of snow is basically all dead stuff that I just cut down and cut up to leave on the ground as part of that coarse woody debris that the management plan talks about, just so I could get a better idea of these aspen or poplar. You can see them all, the crowns, which ones to take down. I have given it some thought, primarily because of wind throw. I'm going to leave a couple, well, a handful, I don't know how many exactly. But so I'm going to start by taking down the ones that I know I want to take down, and then whittle my way down until the ones that I'm less convinced need to come down, and those I'll probably let stay, to provide some protection from the wind from the other trees that probably haven't really experienced much, because these big trees have been here to help lessen the blow of the wind, which generally comes from that direction, either the south or the west. So the first one I've decided that I know I want to take down is this one right here. Maybe you can make it out on camera, but it actually is leaning pretty hard that way. I don't want to fall it that way. I want to fell it that way. I have this cedar, which I pointed out before we took our break, or yesterday. It's actually not nearly as straight as before, but that's fine. It may straighten up a bit. I mean, it's obviously a very young tree. So I should be able to miss it. I do have enough of a lean in that direction, even though it's heading towards us as well, where I should be able to fell it that way. It's probably going to take some more of those dead trees down. It might damage one or both of those or three of those live fir up there. That's not the end of the world. So I brought out the big guns, my larger chainsaw, just because for a 16-inch bar this trunk would be a little bit of a challenge, as well as some of the other ones I plan to take down. Well, we'll see how we do. Interesting. Felt like it was in slow motion, but it wasn't. It was real time, I promise. I left quite a big hinge because it was leaning so much, and I could tell it was starting to go. I'll make nice lumber. I'll get a 16-foot log out of it, and probably the rest I'll just turn into firewood. Quite the open canopy. So the top of that tree was disfigured anyhow because it was growing under the canopy. This one over there, I think the same. But this tree, I can't see it from here, but I can see it back further. This one here, the top still looks good, and it has the largest crown of the three. So if any of them had to be saved, I'm glad it was that one. I probably will leave these other ones regardless, just as sort of that placeholder tree, because we're going to have plenty of light in here. So I'll cut this one up, and then we'll figure out what the next one's going to be. So, one 16-foot saw log that I will keep for myself. One uprooted tree. It was uprooted before, it just happened to be buried in the snow. I'll make 1-inch lumber out of this, either for furniture or I'm thinking maybe siding. I've used it for board and batten siding. I did it on the shed. Oh, it's got to be 8 years ago, or maybe more. And so far it's worked really well. That is a nice looking log. A couple large 16-foot firewood logs. This one here, that one, a couple smaller ones. So the decision for the next several trees will have to wait till tomorrow. I need to leave now to go pick up my daughter's dog for the weekend. Dog sitting. But we'll be back here shortly to continue this. So here we are, back the next day. Dog has been successfully retrieved. That's the stump that we just cut. I did survey this a little bit last night. And before I take down any more of these poplar, because I think some are best to be felled that away. You can see out there is sort of an open field. I think what I'm going to spend some time doing is just sort of thinning this out. Again, to get a better idea of where I should drop it, where the best place to skid it out is. So when my tractor is here, it's sort of along the road, same road that we dropped the top of that poplar into. So rather than go over that way right off and thin that out, because there's some poplar over here, I think that's the last of them this way. What I think I'm going to do is continue thinning from sort of the road in, probably from the road in about halfway between here and the field, which probably is going to be about 100 feet, maybe 150 feet, all the way to this next crossroad, which isn't that far away. Basically right here. This is the old road. I actually moved it over there because here I had to wind through some trees and I was damaging stumps, so I relocated the road over that way. But basically right here to the left is the section I'm working at, so it's not that big of a section. It's manageable. I can see from one end to the other, which makes me feel good about progress. So my plan is to work from the tractor to where we are and just sort of thin things out, such as this triplet here really only needs to be one tree. For instance, there's a bunch of small poles in there, mostly fir, maybe some red maple, that I'll take out for our corridor road. Probably find a saw log or two. So it may not even be this video that I cut another poplar tree. It might be some excitement to wait for the next one. So I think at least for the next time being, will be some time lapse of me scurrying around, just taking care of some of this junk wood. Well, it's a nice little pile there. The forest floor over here looks sort of like it did over there, which is a beautiful mess. To the humans, I guess it looks messy, but for forest health, for critters, wildlife habitat, probably actually more inviting than it was before. So I still have a couple dead stems. I'll probably leave the ones that really aren't interrupting anything. But we have opened up some sky. Dead. I think that's actually a gray birch, even though it might look like a white birch. So what I took there, actually most of it was dead cedar trees that had died. There was one live cedar I took down. You can see the needles over there. It was a small one. I can't remember exactly where I took it from, but growing right next to some bigger ones. It might have been over there. So there are some cedar here that probably should come down. This is a good example to make these multiple stem root balls a single tree. You know, pick one of those to leave, take the other down. This one's not the best. It's got a split top. This one's better, although it has a wiggly butt there, but that's only a couple feet up. But I'm going to wait on that. There are a couple local companies that use white cedar. One is for log homes, but they require slightly larger material than I'm cutting here. Another one, which is actually a bit closer to my house, buys cedar for cedar fencing, like split rail fences, as well as, you know, small slats for fencing. I think they'll take down to a 3-inch diameter top, 10 feet long. So I want to get a price list, make sure they're still buying that before I cut something like that, because that would be sold. I'd probably get 2, maybe 3 10-footers out of there that would meet their specs, if I remember correctly. This one looks dead. I almost took it down, but you can see there are some live needles. That it doesn't look the best. I'm guessing it's probably not going to be a great tree, but for now it'll stay. So really it's rinse and repeat. So I've probably made it halfway between the tractor and that crossroad that we just walked down to a bit ago. But I need to work further back there, plus there's the last of the poplar right there. So same sort of thing, I'm just going to do it further down there, and rather than record it all, I'll just show you the results after I'm done. Well, our corduroy pole pile is a little bit bigger now. I didn't work a long way back there, but I did take down a fair amount of junk trees and stuff. And I guess while we're coming back now, more importantly, I did identify a couple trees, larger trees I want to take down. One is this fir here. So you can see up there next to my tractor, those are all cedar trees. Some have some decent light on one side, but they don't have any light on this side. So I'm going to take this one down, leave that fir, and there's a red maple there I'm going to take down, and I'm going to leave that fir. So it's looking good up there. I still have the poplar questions to answer, but I want to work my way that way a bit more towards that open field over there a bit more. But while I'm right here in the neighborhood, I'll take down this fir and that red maple. Make probably a couple of nice saw logs out of this, and some nice firewood out of that. Bit of a challenge. I ended up cutting almost all the hinge off. It was really hung up in those branches way up there. I had thought of cutting it completely off. It's called, I think it's called slit cutting or something like that, which would have made it twist and sort of roll off the top of those. But the problem is it might not have fallen in that direction. It might have fallen over that way. Who knows? You don't have, once you've released the hinge, you don't have much control over the direction that it's going to fall. The other consideration that I pondered was hooking up my cable with my snatch block to pull it over that way. That would have worked, but I'm glad it went the way it did. Cut a bit more on my wedges. But it looks like a nice sound log. It grew pretty rapidly during mid-year, midlife, I guess. And slowed down, not considerably. It was still growing at a decent rate, maybe 1/4 of an inch in diameter a year, down here. Maybe up there a bit less. But yeah, a couple real nice saw logs. I guess the log rolled off the rock. That was my favorite tripod too. Got a little trigger. Little trigger to easily maneuver it. So these turned out to be one really nice log. Nice straight, large diameter, small black knots on the outside, sound knots in the inside. But real small. Here, the second log, you can see bigger knots. And then third log wasn't a log, it was just a 12-foot pole for corduroy road. So the stump was right here. So you can see how much of the canopy that opened. It gives that cedar quite a bit more light. And if these guys decide to grow a bit more, there's plenty of light for those crowns as well. So the next one, or the last one, I guess, for this video, I think it would be a good stopping point, is this red maple for firewood. Because now with no leaves, it says, oh, why cut this down? I can see plenty of light up there. But it is really stifling. This one here, which has almost no light except the side branches into the road. And it's actually, well, there's another cedar there. And it's towering over even some of the firs that we just talked about a second ago. So this one, you can probably tell, is leaning hard that way, which is fine. It'll go across the road. If all goes well, it should drop dead center between that twin set of trees there and that fir tree there. Minimal damage. I mean, the red maple doesn't have really big branches. It's not like a not like a poplar, quaking aspen. So it may take some branches down on the way, but it really shouldn't do much damage to those larger firs. It is leaning really hard that way, but there's just enough of those branches keeping that guy upright. Well, that wasn't the most graceful thing, but I guess I got the job done. I got those out of the road. So we have 3 firewood logs, a bunch of corduroy poles, a couple saw logs, and this beautiful mess on the forest floor. So I think we'll call it good for this segment, to this part of forest or homeowner silviculture. Do have a lot more open crown or open sky than we did before. A lot more things to do still. So probably what I'll do is before we meet up again for another episode, I will spend some time cleaning up this area and then figure out exactly which of these poplar I'll take down and which direction I will fell them. I think at least a couple of them will actually go that way, and I'll access from the field. So thanks for being with me during this particular part. I appreciate your viewership and hope to see you next time. Thank you.